come. I believe there's some traffic jam at the Mount Road. Otherwise, we had more than 140 registrations. I'm quite sure people will be joining us soon. I'll take 1 or 2 minutes. That's why I'm starting 2 minutes before time. Just tell you what's happening in MMA next few days so that you don't miss them. Before that, let me warmly welcome all the viewers watching the program live. As usual, if you have any questions, the numbers on your screen, please share all your questions and we'll collect them and place it before distinguished speakers and the panel who will agree to respond to all your questions. Only request is please address your questions what is relevant to the theme and so that it will be easy for us to think. Anyway, we'll scan and then only send, but I only request you to do that. Now, what's happening? Number of events we already done in the month of June. July, August, September. Till September, we already planned all our events. What's the major event happening is 5th of July. It's our flagship event, MMA Award for Managerial Excellence and also MMA AGM and award functions. There is also a seminar, in the afternoon seminar, which is unique to MMA. All the award winners are requested to make the presentation in the afternoon. What made them win this award, Convert Award? Because the award winners are all outstanding industrialists. Under the manufacturing category, the winner is the TVS Motors. You know, TVS Motors is more than 20,000 crore turnover company. So they are going to come and share what made them win, how good they are at. Then we also have SIFI in the services sector. We have SME sector, the education in Sairam College. In the MSME sector, again, outstanding company which has won the award. So please come. The seminar is starting at 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock to 5:15, then followed by high tea. Then 6 o'clock, we have the award function. In the award function, we have again, it's really a wonderful award function. We really love to attend the award function of MMA. It's very unique in the sense we have two outstanding speakers. Narendran, who is MD of Tata Steel, is the chief guest. He's going to be talking the address. But Josh Folger is again come to agree to deliver the keynote address. Then we also launching the MMA special issue of the business mandate. And MMA also publishing the book. We have started doing that actually. Now, the first publication of MMA book will be launched on 5th of July, where it will be a very unique thing which you are doing. And you must come and see the publication, what we have done. It will be happening regularly, what we have done. We have got thousands of lectures done, videos done. So we compile each one of them subject-wise and we are going to publish it regularly so that it will be very useful for the people. And one unique thing about our publication is that it will also, at the end of the chapter, we'll have a link for the video. You can watch it, the video, in case you don't want to watch it, you want to read it, you can just plug your earplug, and it's also got audio edge. So that all these three are there. I don't think I have not seen at least a book published on these lines with thousands of. Though all these are available, not many are using it, we thought it will be very, very useful to you. Then followed by dinner, please join us, meet them. It's a very important event for us because we showcase what we have done over the years, how much successfully brought programs and so many initiatives done and about 700 events. Please do come and it will be a pleasure to have you with us on 5th of July. Then again, 8th of July, we have securing the future of digital payments, securing the digital payments. Why future? It will be present, past, or future, or it should be secured with a digital payment. Again, we got an outstanding panel, including the RBI regional director and some of the experts in the field are going to come, including we are getting a policeman to come and speak. How quick they are reacting. There's a number given to them and what they're doing and how much is successful rate in recovering. At the end of the day, you give a police complaint, the money goes, what to do actually, you know. So how much you can build the confidence in the individuals. Your police complaints are taken very seriously, actioned upon. So it's happening on 18th of July. Then 22nd July, we got again a success story how it was done. Success story of Notion printers. You know, Notion printers is a very unique model where they make everybody to come and publish the dream. They want to write a book and they do it at a very reasonable cost and how well they're doing. We've seen the model. That model is going to be coming and talking to us. Then next month again, 25th of July, we have a mental well-being thing, unleashing the potential. We will be having a second part and how am I intelligent? Each part, thanks to you will, Ennapadam will share during his thing, how we have designed next 5 months. So next month again, every month, at least next 3-4 months, we have planned this every month because this is an issue which we thought everybody doing. In addition to that, we also have lined up some very good program in July. One is leadership traits of Mr. Modi, Narendra Modi. He's also there in one of the book and it's good to listen to some outstanding panel again. We have this happening on 27th July. So it's a number of very good programs lined up, very good. And I also want to tell you, MMA also planned the workshops and certificate course for next 6 months actually. And you must watch them. Some outstanding programs are conducted by my team here. So it's all done at a very, very reasonable price. 1,500 rupees for a full day workshop is very reasonable because not many know about it. That's why I started telling you. That's why I taken the 2 minutes extra. So please do attend that. And coming to today's topic and unleashing the inner potential, cultivating mental resilience for well-being. Very, very important. When I want to do this, first call I gave it to you. Only person whom I know who is very good in this is Mr. Ennapadam Krishnamurthy. When I rang up to him, he said, straight away, yes, let's do that actually. He didn't even ask how many months he is. Let's do it. Straight away, fix the date for this. And because I've seen not only the newspapers and so many events what we do, and so many reports what has come, there is an issue in this. Not many, except there is an issue. Even this issue happens to you. You don't even know you have an issue actually. When others have an issue, they don't tell you because you have an issue, the other tell you you have an issue, the guy who is telling you will have an issue. It's all issues for everybody. So how can we think? Because I was told there is a clear communication between the body and the mind. If the communication fails, you are in trouble actually. And they also said a lot of symptoms are there. The guy get very angry, and, if something there, he will not respond to that, he will not get food. But very difficult to really see. Because I know somebody who get angry for everything, somebody who laugh for everything. So I really urge upon viewers, if some of your friends are not watching it, please tell them our recording will be available, and all the viewers, you are attended this evening. At the end of the day, you must share this because this is a subject which everybody should know actually. Everybody should understand so that we lead a healthy life. And you get into trouble. It's a serious issue. We're talking over tea because this is the one area nobody takes care. I've seen even at home, elderly people get into trouble. I've seen some of my dear friends, even armed forces person, troubling this, and they don't really take care. Armed forces take care, but to some extent, they are like a vegetable at home because that's why you feed your neuron, you take proper care, you do yoga, you take your care of your body. It really helps you actually, and you can be mentally, physically agile. You can lead a wonderful life. So make you aware of all this, and we have a very, very wonderful panel. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hand together to welcome a distinguished panel for this thing, and led by none other than Dr. Ennapadam Krishnamurthy, founder of Buddhi Clinic. We also have with us three outstanding people who I'll be introducing them. We got Mr. Rudra Rao, Mr. Vivek Mishra, and Ashok Dilip. May I request you the distinguished panel to take your place on the dais. Ladies and gentlemen, once again a very warm welcome to the distinguished panel for this evening. Come.
We do is after we finish with the session, we do a little intro.
Yes, then let me have introducing you first, then I'll. Yes, there's a slight change in the program. Rudra will be doing ice breaking, we can call it, and he will be doing that. Before that, I will request Mr. Ennapadam to tell the context, set the context why we are doing this. Dr. Ennapadam Krishnamurthy is popularly known as ESK. He is a renowned behavioral neurologist and neuropsychiatrist, and also founder of Buddhi Clinic and Neurokrish Foundation. He is a champion in integrated brain and mind rehabilitation. He has held prominent roles in epilepsy, dementia, autism, and he is also the past president of the International Neuropsychiatric Association, and has also significantly contributed to the specific scientific literature global lecturing. He is an adjunct professor of Manipal University and a senior clinical advisor in Apollo Hospital. I know Rakesh will set the context and it's on.
Thank you, Captain Vijay Kumar, Group Captain Vijay Kumar, for the very nice introduction, and thank you for inviting us to do this series with MMA. When we spoke, the understanding was that we all know that we come across obstacles in life, and one aspect of the obstacle that's within our control is our own mental well-being. And we don't often recognize that our own mental well-being is an obstacle to whatever that we are seeking to achieve or whatever we are seeking to do. And we thought we need to help people understand how to unleash one's potential by understanding the roots of one's own mental well-being. And over a few lectures, what we are hoping to do, a few sessions, what we are hoping to do is start with childhood and go right on to preparing for elder life. Because that's what happens to all of us. We start as children. Today we're going to talk about what underlies mental well-being in terms of child development. It will help you understand yourself. It will help you look back at your life. It will help you understand people around you. And then we progress through various aspects that challenge mental well-being, right through until retirement, growing older, because there are challenges there too, which all of us need to recognize and all of us need to work towards. So we have a few presentations. We are looking forward to a very interactive discussion. But before we start, we thought we should get all of you into the right mind space for mental well-being. And to do this, we have Rudra, who is experienced yoga and mindfulness practitioner, and he's going to take us through a small exercise and understanding before we start the rest of the program. Rudra.
Can I briefly introduce you so the audience know how good you are? And yes, let me have the privilege of introducing Rudra, a young man. It's always a privilege to introduce him. He's a specialist in holistic mental wellness at the Buddhi Clinic with a bachelor's in master's in clinical psychology. He also holds a RCI recognized postgraduate professional diploma in clinical psychology and a trained yoga teacher from Yoga Vedanta Forest Academy and a registered member of the Indian Yoga Association, and he integrates the Indian yoga system with modern medicine to promote mental health. What do you do?
Good evening. So I'm going to introduce you all to mindfulness. So what is mindfulness? Is the mind full of clutter, or your mind is full with currently being in the present moment? When we speak of the 8 limbs of yoga, we have the 6th limb called dharana, which is mindfulness. Now, mindfulness teaches us to bend, just like what Robert Jordan said. If the oak fought the wind, it would break, but the willow bent and it survived. So if we don't bend, we break. Speaking of mental resilience, we must learn to bend lest we break. Being in the present moment also involves complete awareness of our thoughts and feelings. Practicing intense concentration, being one-pointed, teaches us to be mindful. I would like you all to close your eyes for a moment, to sit comfortably. You can use the back support, yes. Make your palms face the ceiling, preferably. I will guide you into a space of being mindful. Relax, 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 relax. I want you all to inhale deeply, exhaling slowly. Inhale, expand your abdomen, expand your chest, expand till the base of your throat. Exhale completely. I want you to relax your fingers. Your thumb is relaxed. Your second finger is relaxed. Your third finger is relaxed. Your wrists are relaxed. Your hands from elbow below are relaxing. Relax, 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 relax. Your arms from shoulder to elbow relaxing. My arms are relaxing. My toes are relaxed. My feet from knee below are relaxed. Relax. 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 I want you to imagine walking barefoot in a garden. You can feel the grass beneath your feet. You can smell the ocean. You can see a stairway walking down the steps. You can now feel the sand beneath your feet. You walk back to the garden. You feel the grass beneath your feet. You're slowly coming back to MMS Center. You are slowly going to open your eyes, look at your palms beneath. Now what I walked you through is something which is guided nature, and this is not something which can be done to self. You have to listen to somebody else's voice to get into this mindful state, to be able to be resilient, to function optimally. You have YouTube videos nowadays with the audio recordings available. It's best done in the presence of somebody who can guide you through it. Thank you very much.
I hope that exercise kind of demonstrated to you how it's possible for you to take control of your mind and even for a brief period be able to be mindful and perceive in depth a lot of things. Believe me, doing these exercises repeatedly is tremendously beneficial, and a lot of people use short meditation as a way of being very, very sharp and stress-free, both mentally sharp and stress-free. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about, we talked about childhood being important. There were some studies done in the 70s and 80s called the New York Studies of Temperament. What they showed us was the roots of temperament, human temperament, who we are, how we behave, how we react, are actually laid out in childhood. So, one part of everything that we are is biological. It's the way our brains are wired. We talk about brain, we talk about mind. Just to tell you the difference in a very simple way, there is nothing inside you called the mind. You can have the most fancy scan in the world. You're not going to find the mind. What you have is a physical structure called the brain, which is millions of neurons, nerve cells, talking to each other through chemical systems. And that really is, the working brain is your mind. So the brain is like this computer, the hardware. The mind is like the operating system that exists in your computer. It only occupies cloud space. It doesn't occupy any real space. So with that difference in mind, one part of who you are is laid down in childhood, and it's biological. And then, of course, you go through life experience, and as you go through life experiences, you have positive and negative experiences. Positive experiences have the ability to make us stronger people. Negative experience can also make us stronger, but if we don't deal with them well, they leave us with scars. And the balance of the positive and negative is what you are at any point in time, and that is your psyche, your operating mind. And then, of course, there is the social circumstances around us. Many of us, when we went through COVID, when life was uncertain, the social circumstances around us were not very good. They were very stress-provoking. When you go through difficulties at work, difficulties with your family, again, the social circumstances are not very good. They are stress-provoking. And how you react to all this through your life is actually determined in childhood to some extent. And therefore, we're going to talk a little bit today about the roots, how childhood is the basis for your long-term mental well-being and resilience. For some of us in this room, we may think it's too late to change any of that. But on the other hand, it's not too late to make things better for other members of your family and people you love and people who work with you. So I think the opportunity is much wider than just ourselves. But also to be able to set those experiences right in our minds so that they don't continue to trouble us is extremely important. So just a few basics is what I'm going to do, and talk a little bit about how people can be neurodiverse, what that means, talk a little bit about how we are all intelligent in some ways, and then I'm going to leave it to Vivek and Aishi to take us through other things. So the first thing, we all learn. We spend our life learning. But what is learning? It's the acquisition of new knowledge or the modification of existing knowledge, but it's also behaviors, skills, values, and preferences that we either acquire or modify as we go through life. It occurs as a part of education, formal education. It occurs as a part of our personal development, schooling or training. It can be goal-directed or it can be aided by motivation. There are many things. All of you have motivated yourself to be here today. Whatever you learn here today is because of your self-motivation. Whatever you take away is because you made the time to do this. And of course, learning involves synthesis, putting together different pieces of information and connecting the dots. And please remember, this is something we do right through our lives. Now, of course, then we have something called memory. So what is your memory? Your memory is a process by which any information that you come across, I'm speaking to you now, I'm putting forward various pieces of information. How you encode, register that information, how you store that information for the future, and how you retrieve it when you need it. That is your entire memory process. Now, if your mind is far away, you're thinking about work, thinking about family, thinking about who you'd rather be with rather than sit in this room, then obviously you're not encoding the information. Which is why later, when you're trying to remember it, it's not to be found. But there's an even more important reason why we don't remember things when we need them, and that is because when we, if you store information in a computer, let's say that you're saving a file with your own name, and let's say, for example, your name is Vivek. You started with uppercase V and said V-I-V-E-K. Now, when you're searching, you search with a lowercase v. You'll not find it. So, one of the reasons memory fails you is not because you did not store it in your memory, it's because you're not typing in the right access codes. And it's very important, therefore, to remember that for something to be accessible to you, you need to store it well. And one of the reasons we all remember things that have emotional salience to us is because those memories are the best stored. So rather than tell you a fact, if I told you a story, you will, and that story touched you, then that becomes a much better memory than the fact on its own. So this is one of the reasons why emotional salience is very important. So memory involves encoding, storage, and retrieval. this entire process. And please remember, this is just a cartoon to tell you there is a lot when it comes to memory. It's not just one thing. There are many, many types of memory. I'll give you an example. Many of you sat in your cars or two-wheelers and drove here. When you're doing it, you're not thinking every moment about every action that you're doing. When you started learning to drive, you would have thought about every action. Now you drive automatically. Sometimes you even forget how you got from point A to point B. You're just driving your vehicle. And that's because you're using a certain kind of memory that does not require you to constantly pay focus. That's also a kind of memory. There is also learning involved in this. Okay? And what is behavior? Because this is very important. It's part of our lives. It is our response to any input or stimulus that comes from the outside. Please remember, behavior from us always has a stimulus. Something provoked it. Okay? So sometimes, for example, people who get angry and angry with beyond measure, families, come and say, oh my God, he gets so angry. And if I ask, so what happened? Why did this person get so angry? They are not able to tell me if there was a particular incident or a stimulus that made the person so angry. But if you think about it, there always is a stimulus, and that stimulus can be something as mild as the attitude of the person opposite them, which makes them very angry. Okay? They may have a traumatic experience in the past of dealing with somebody who did not respect them or did not deal with them properly. And in some way, your attitude is reminding them of that person. So they get angry. Okay? So these roots also, and please remember, a lot of our behaviors are sort of, what shall I say, set down in childhood. Now you'll hear more about this. And a lot of it is also called modeling. You're watching people around you. You end up believing that that's the right way to be. One very simple example to this is, let's say that you have your child with you, and let's say that you're supposed to be somewhere in 10 minutes, and the person calls you. Your appropriate response if you're sitting at home with your child is to say, I'm so sorry, I'm not yet left. But what will you say? No, sir, I'm on the way. Right? Now the child thinks it's all right to lie. Right? Because you're demonstrating that to the child. You're modeling. Right? And when you model, that those lessons get carried on for a very, very long time. Because if it's okay for you to do it, why is it not okay for me to do it? It's okay for me to do it. I'm learning from you by watching you. This is something that we have to understand. Okay? And then, of course, we have to also think about, we as humans are social beings. Being social beings, existing within a society, there is no universal behavior that is acceptable everywhere. So what is acceptable in one group or community or society may not be acceptable in another. Okay? So a lot of our behavior is driven by the lessons we learn, which is what is acceptable in my environment. So we all use social norms in order to regulate our behavior or social control. I'll give you an example. How I behave when I am at home with only my family members present, and how I will behave, say for example, in the MMA auditorium, are two different things. Right? So what changes then? What changes is that when I am in public, I will exercise social control. The same social control I may not exercise when I am at home because my guard is down, my defenses are down. I'm not thinking what will people think if I do this, because it's less of a problem there. It's even less of a problem when I'm on my own. And if you think about it, one of the reasons why people do indiscretions when they travel is because they are far away somewhere where they know nobody. Right? It's all right to do something because nobody knows who you are. You wouldn't do the same things in the city where you live, and you will definitely not do those things in the company of people who know you. And so definitely environment modulates our behavior as well. We're talking a little bit about neurodiversity, and I'll explain why. How many of you in this room know Elon Musk? Hands up, please. Okay. So what is Elon Musk famous for? He's famous for the Tesla car. He's famous for SpaceX. But he's also famous for one more thing. He went public with saying, I am neurodiverse. Okay. He acknowledged his neurodiversity. Now, what is that? He basically said, I don't think, feel, and behave and act like other people. I think, feel, behave, and act very differently. And if you read his biography by Walter Isaacson, it will become very evident to you how he thinks, feels, behaves, and acts very, very differently. Now, why am I picking Elon Musk? Elon Musk's neurodiversity, he acknowledged, was high functioning autism spectrum disorder. Autism spectrum disorder is where you have problems with language, communication, and socialization right from childhood. So Elon Musk's behaviors were laid down in childhood. Now, one of the things that you lack when you have that kind of a brain development is that you lack empathy. You don't feel for other people, which is one of the reasons why he can be brutal. If you read his biography, he is a CEO who can fire someone who's worked with him for 15 years, drop of the hat. You were useful, you're no longer useful. I think you should find your place somewhere else. That's exactly what he says to somebody who's been critical part of his development in Tesla, some 10, 15 years later. That is lack of empathy, but that's also a certain neurodiversity trait. Now, why are we discussing this? Some of these traits are inbuilt from childhood in us. These traits make it difficult for us to settle into certain social situations. These traits make it difficult for other people to put up with us also. Right? Now, you all may have come across, for example, somebody who had certain pet peeves, that they will not come to certain places, they will not wear certain clothes, they don't like being in a crowded place, and so on. And you will have to tolerate them for all those pet peeves which they've had forever. You might have come across a person like this. Now, that is a form of neurodiversity. But does that mean that they don't have potential? Certainly not. Elon Musk is your living lesson that people who are neurodiverse have enormous inbuilt potential. And bringing that potential out is very, very important. So understanding neurodiversity is also important, not just for yourself, your family, it's also important in your workspaces. People who work with you may be neurodiverse, and if only you're able to put aside the problems that they have, you may actually unlock their potential, because some parts of their brain are supernormal, they're working really, really well. And this is something that we all have to understand, which is another reason why we're talking a little bit about neurodiversity. Okay? So, when you think about a problem, ask, do we have a problem in learning? Do we have a problem in memory? Do we have a problem in behavior? And this is especially relevant if you're dealing with a child or a young person in your house who's struggling a little bit. Where is this problem? Then ask yourself, is this a problem that's developmental? They've had it ever since you've known them. Is this a problem that's acquired? They were perfectly all right until a certain point in time, but they now seem to be experiencing a problem. The two are very different. It's very important to know this. And then, of course, as I said, the problem could be with your wiring, the problem could be with your psyche, the problem could be with your circumstances. The solutions are not one and the same. So it's very important that we understand where the problem is in order to understand how we find the solutions. Now, this is something that's extremely important in the workspace, what we call aptitude. It's another concept I want everyone to try and understand. Aptitude is, to put it very simply, what comes very naturally to you. What is your innate potential? Okay. Now, those of you in workspaces will understand this. There are people in marketing and sales. There are people in accounting. The temperament you need for marketing and sales is very different from the temperament you need for accounting. If you put an accounting temperament guy in marketing and sales, it can be disaster. You put a marketing and sales temperament guy in accounting, it can be disaster. But you will be surprised, a very large number of people find themselves in the wrong department. Their aptitude is for something, but they are being made to work in some other way. One very global workplace aptitude check that I ask people to do when people talk to me is, are you a front office guy or a back office guy? If fundamentally you're a front office guy, then you're not going to do very well in tasks that involve the back office. I like shaking hands, I like talking to people, I like connecting with people, I like trying to tell them stories. I can sell a snowball to an Eskimo. Now that is a certain temperament, right? I am meticulous, I know everything, I go by the book, I will look down at each thing, I need my checklist, I get irritated when things don't go right. That's a back office guy. Okay, he's a process guy. They can't do each other's jobs. So aptitude, knowing your aptitude becomes so important in terms of life and success, because depending on your aptitude, you need to choose the kind of works that you do, the kind of activities that you do. And that's very important, and that's very often set in childhood as well. Aptitude can be modified through education, learning and all that, but it's quite well set in childhood. So that's another reason why we're talking childhood. So I mentioned neurodiversity. It describes the idea that people experience and interact with the world around them in different ways, and there's no one right way of thinking, learning, feeling and behaving. Accepting this will help us accept the Elon Musks of this world. Let me tell you, Elon Musk is not alone. Okay, Steve Jobs was in his own way neurodiverse. Bill Gates is neurodiverse. A lot of people who are tech billionaires and world leaders have actually been neurodiverse. It's that cleverness that they have, combined with the lack of empathy and not getting distracted by other human things. Even how do I let this guy go? What's he going to do with the rest of his life if I fire him now? They don't get preoccupied by things like that. They are preoccupied with what they want to achieve and damn everything else. Now, that I'm not celebrating it, but I'm trying to tell you, you need to understand them. And if people have a diverse temperament, we need to understand that diverse temperament. And of course, not everybody who's neurodiverse is capable. It's very important. Very often the potential has not been recognized. It is there, but nobody's brought that potential out. The problems are more evident than the solutions. And that's the most common thing. Okay. So part of today's session also is to try and understand how you understand the problem and what potential solutions you can put forward. And just to explain this, not just people with autism, people with ADHD can be labeled as neurodiverse, people with conditions like temporal lobe epilepsy can be considered neurodiverse, people with certain personality disorders can be considered neurodiverse. So it's quite a wide number of presentations for doctors and psychologists that also present with neurodiversity. Now, I want to sort of, before I stop, talk just about square pegs and round holes. Okay. So what do we do with our children? We send them to school. How does a child learn in a typical school? Think about the first 2 or 3 years of schooling. You're sitting in rows. There is a teacher like this in front. A for apple, B for ball, C for cat. 2:2 is 4, 3:3 is 9. Rote learning and something being drilled repeatedly into you is the norm. Right? Now the challenge is, many children cope with that. It's not ideal according to me, but many children cope with that. Neurodiverse children will find that very, very hard to cope with. And they typically get into problems in school, they typically get excluded. And for the same reasons, as they grow up, they find it hard in college, they'll find it hard in university, they will find it hard in a workspace. So, in a sense, they are square pegs, and what we are trying to do as society is we have round holes and we want to fit you into that round hole. Right? Now, one way of saying is the problem with the peg, right? The other way of thinking about this, the problem with the holes and the people who are creating the holes, right? Which is our education system just doesn't get it. We are not able to organize ourselves in a way that welcomes such talents. Our workspaces sometimes just don't get it. We are not able to organize ourselves in a way that leverages on talent. Okay? So it's very, very important, and I think, I would bet my bottom dollar all of you here, there will be some who are neurodiverse in one way or the other and who feel they are misfits. Okay? And one of the reasons is, yes, you have a problem, you don't adapt to certain things. But there's another side to this. We have set up ourselves as a society, whether it's school, whether it's college, whether it's workspace. We have set ourselves up in such a way that we are not able to accept diversity. We are not able to work with people who are different. And understanding the diversity within is a very, very important aspect of building resilience. Because otherwise I'm constantly wondering, why am I not making it? Why am I not getting promoted? Why am I not recognized in the way that my colleague is recognized? Why don't I have the success that somebody else has? Right? And the answers often lie in our diversity, and diversity can be as simple as there are certain things that I simply cannot do. I give this example to all my patients, and with this I will close. You're seeing me in my own clinic. Why are you not seeing me in a large hospital, corporate hospital? Okay? And the answer is, I won't last 2 days in a large corporate hospital. I like to do my own thing. Right? I cannot be told what to do. It's as simple as that. So I had to create my own workspace. It's as simple as that. Okay? Now if you understand that, you're happy. If you have this mindset, then go try fit repeatedly into a workspace which is primed to work in a certain way. You are going to be unhappy. And part of this, therefore, is all of us recognizing the roots of what causes mental imbalance for us. And I think that's also what we're going to address in today's lecture. I think I'm going to stop here. I will stop here and I will get Vivek and Ayushi to give their talks. Thank you.
Well, I'll take a minute to introduce. Thank you, sir. Great insight. Good. You don't want to be an Elon Musk or Bill Gates. No, we are safe. Let me have the privilege of introducing other two distinguished speakers. One is the first one to speak is Vivek Mishra. He's a director, neuroscience and neurotechnology Buddhi Clinic, and he's a MS in director of he's done his MS and it's over 12 years of experience. He specializes in non-invasive brain stimulation and precision medicine of neuropsychiatric conditions. Founder of Upbrain Research Frontier. He is a big industry and academia focusing on neuroscience, mental health, research. Vivek leads the state-of-the-art neuro, which we'll be sharing with you now, lab at Buddhi Clinic, and collaborate with startups, innovative healthcare solutions. He's also an active science communicator and serves on the editorial boards of many prestigious publications. Nice to have you with us. He'll be talking to you. Before that, let me also introduce Ayushi Dilip. She'll be talking to you immediately following Vivek. Ayushi is a resident coordinator of clinical psychology at Buddhi Clinic with experience as a senior consultant psychology at Amha and clinical roles at Locus Mental Health and Fortis Healthcare. She specializes in neuropsychiatry and allied sciences. Ayushi also holds a MPhil in clinical psychology from Ranchi University and MS in clinical psychology from Jain University. She combines extensive training and experience to provide comprehensive mental health care. Over to you, Vivek.
Okay. So, good evening, everyone, and I would like to thank the MMA and like to give us this. And given us this opportunity. So, like before I start my talk, so everyone talks about the mind, the behavior, but we often neglect, even the foremost societies in the science neglected that behind the behavior there is a hardware component, and that's brain. Till 1850s, people were unaware, like nobody have actually studied that what brain damages can bring the changes in the behavior. So to just give a photograph, weighing about 3 pounds, the human brain is the ultimate organ of adaptation. It takes information, it orchestrates complex behavioral retrofits that allow human beings to act in sometimes marvelous and sometimes terrible ways. When we talk about the brain and the cells inside the brain, the very recent study have found that the human brain, some 86 billion neurons form 100 trillion connections to each other. The number that ironically is too far or too large for the human brain to fathom. And the photograph what you see is an actual dyed section of the human brain connecting to each other. So how the learning, the behavior, the intelligence goes about. So in 1949, famous neuroscientist and neuropsychologist Donald G. Hebb wrote a book, The Organization of Behavior, how the behavior is being organized. And what he postulated was when there are two neurons or the brain cells start giving the input to each other, they make a special bond. After 16 years of these postulates, it has been proven molecular biologically and chemical composition that yes, when the two neurons which communicate each other for a very long time will develop a bond or what we say a connection. And how everyone's in summarize is neurons that wire together, fire together, wire together. The learned association through strengthening of connections. Now, what is this strengthening of connections? I will take a very simple example. If we look 15 years back, how many phone numbers we would have recalled? At least 10, 15 mobile numbers or phone numbers. How many phone numbers we can even recall now? So the cells which were used to remember those numbers, what are they used for now? Well, now we remember passwords, the pins, the ATM pins. So it readapts our brain and then it strengthens the condition that old connections remove, like they are no longer valid. It's been used for the different types of information. But how this strengthening of connection actually happens? And there are theories that what most of the people think as self, what we think, what we remember, what we can do, how we feel is acquired by the brain from experiences that occur after the birth. And that's the theory or the hypothesis goes that is it a blank state? A child is born and then start acquiring the information, or there is something inherited, what the child even got exposure to before the birth. So we will discuss that part. But first, this the book, what I have found interesting is The Science of Early Childhood Development, From Neurons to Neighborhood. So some information is acquired early in a critical stage or at a sensitive period. Some information we can acquire at a later stages of the life. Now there is this spectrum of possibilities that if one information is being acquired at an early stage, another information acquired at a later stage, sometimes it enhances the rapid development of the brain, it characterizes the early childhood period, or brain's lifelong capacity to growth and change, what everyone calls it neuroplasticity. If we look at this graph, we says till when we can learn the new changes. So experience dependent synapse formation can happen right through from the early childhood to the death. Now neurogenesis is in hippocampus, making new memories, making new cells coming together. It goes up to 50 to 60 years of age. But on the other hand, like higher cognitive function, arithmetic, reasoning, skill development, A person can stop at 16 years of age, and then we said he have attained, most of the people do attain that logical reasoning. When we talk about the receptive of language area, the speech production, and we usually see that right from the time of the birth, this is the right from the time of the birth, the organs, the brain areas which are involved in speech production is been already started taking. In fact, 1 month before the birth, the brain areas are getting formulated, and it stops till the age of 5 or 6 years of age. So goes for the seeing and hearing. So what I'm talking is the hardware. So how these development is influenced by the neighborhood, or what we say our social environment. Now there are genes designed for this mechanism for a language. There are genes responsible which when make fire in the brain can produce those networks stronger or weaker, and experience activates them as it modifies the brain. So there are genes which design the brain mechanism to understanding and producing the language. Environment, which is spoken language heard, provides the input, and that leads to the behavior of the mastery of a native language. So many people do have a polyglot, they can speak multiple languages, but a large-scale clinical trial have suggested this, that between the age of 3 to 7, if you start, the percentage of correct on the grammar test is close to 100%. And as you grow older, the new language learning gets harder with the age. So if anyone at 40 want to learn, it's only get to a 80% of the mastery. But how is it so? Why the children between 3 and 7 learn so language faster? It's not the ability. The answer lies in the brain. So if you look at 4.7 years of age, the children, though this is the left side, this is the right side of the brain, they use both sides of the brain to learn a language. At 8.1, you will see the activation is lesser. At 11.4, we will see the activation even lesser. And beyond 19 years of age, you will see that they only use one side of their brain to learn a language. Now, why is it so? So the thing is, when we get experienced, being more, our brain goes more diffusely, but became more distinct module, highly integrated and more specialized. Now, there is a difference between a performance and a specialized. A highly specialized industry can't be performance oriented. A performance orientation can't be highly specialized. So all these factors, what develops or what have a major impact. And these are the key parameters what we should be looking for. First, the parent-child and early age interaction. Now, we find that when the child, the parents, even the grandparents, when they interact more with the child, the brain areas get activated, it is getting formed. And how they found out? So there is a study which have taken the difference, two groups of children, one 12 to 14 years of age from the orphanage who have never that experience of parent-child interaction, and one who have the interaction with their parents and child. And they found that the children from the orphanage have a little lesser gray matter in our front of the brain. So now these are the changes that correlates and with the change in the gene expression in the offspring. Because I have not got that stimulus, I don't have that gene activated. I don't have that gene activated, my networks don't work. Similarly, peer relationship. Now, even as a child, play behavior act as prone to pyramidal cells, which are the big cells in the brain, which activates a very specific brain region, a medial prefrontal cortex, which allow neurons to become more plastic in later life. So if a child have not been playing along with the same peer group or the children with his age, that don't get developed. And if they don't get developed, we call it later like, oh, there is a change in behavior, but it is the hardware which have not been developed. Similarly, the psychoactive drugs, not only during the child, but there are the growing evidence that even the prenatal exposure, which means the parents who are exposed, for example, for nicotine, amphetamines, floxamines, the drug, the synthetic drugs, marijuana, alter the behavior, neuronal structure, and the genetics in the adult offspring. So even though if the parents are smoking marijuana, it's not evident immediately at the birth that, yeah, there is some changes, but over the period of time, there are changes which you can see as a different behavior. In fact, even in the early childhood, there was a recent report which says that 13% of the drug abuse in India is seen under the age of 19 years of age. And those changes also lead to the behavior issues what we look for. Now, diet and gut bacteria. Nutrient deficiencies, especially related to protein energy, iron, zinc, copper, choline, have the global effect on developing brain and the brain circuit depending upon the precise timing of the nutrient deficit. Behavioral changes correlated with this change in the diet pattern and can lead to the gut bacteria change. And now this is a modifiable factor. Because we can change our diet, we can eat healthy, we can change our gut microbiome, and now there are several tests available to test, see what's your gut microbiome looks like. And now if we look and we just correlate the two dots, we say everyone having a gut microbiome which is not optimal, and we find that up to 60% of the children with autism do have an abnormal gut microbiome. So is there a connection? What connection we can look for? Going for, so now we know that there are so many factors which can affect our development, which can affect even development before we were born. What can be done next? Because that's the thing, everyone, we talk about problems. So what is the solution? The solution is there are potential cognitive training. Now, what kind of training? The training effect by developing the brain is driven by a complex interaction between learning, brain development, genetic differences, and prior experiences. Depending upon the type of training or the level of maturation of the individual, training may speed up the development, improve the individual actualized genetic potential, or both. So what we see, if we don't put here, if we just look here, if there are baseline data, current level of maturation of the brain, we don't train the brain. The potential growth is only here. We start training, it can be visual stimuli, there can be the different networks training, and we see these arrows will guide us our trajectory, and the same individual, if given the right training in different brain networks, can achieve the optimally exercised potential. And this is the gap what we are looking for. But when we say this training brain networks, and what does these networks are? Can we see it? Because many other people says like, what is this? There is no development, MRI shows it's all fine. The structure is good. So why then, what does this training do? And today we have the actual brain scans called connectome. And this is the actual brain connectome scan with the key to visualize the brain networks. Now on the one hand, there are great chances that the neural efficiency during the development, which could make this period well suited for training. So people say, we start early. I see children going to a coding camps when they are like 5 and 6. There are lots of coaching centers there. Some excel over there, some don't excel over there. And that's where the neurodiversity comes into picture. That why some people excel over there. It may be one of this network is more well built, and these are the actual fibers what you can see in a brain scan today. But on the other hand, there might be limitations on effect of training in the childhood. That is, the maximum achievable potential is limited by the structure itself. It's not matured enough. So what training to give at what age is the key, and the key is we have to look at the brain scan, the imaging, and then look for what a child can achieve. And these networks are specialized. There are visual networks, auditory networks, sensory, language, attention network. There is silence networks, which all process what is important. And then everyone talks about default mode networks. If you don't push your brain to do anything, what does your brain do? For example, like it's just thing, if we want to hold our breath, and suddenly, we will release our breath because we can't hold it. Why? Who forces us? If it is a free will, I want to hold my breath, I can. But then in the default mode network, it's been taught the hardware behavior that it is dangerous to life. And then there is increase in the acidic risk. We feel burning sensation and we immediately relaxes our hand and we breathe in. So now we know that there are factors which can influence. There are brain scans which we know can able to tell us that what's wrong, what's not, and what's working right. But is there any other way? Now I know, like as we say, that we can't control the things which have happened the prenatal condition or when we were child. Can we prime our brain? And that's what the terminology I would like to introduce is neuropriming. Can brain stimulation for enhanced learning, can it be used? And there we use something called the non-invasive brain stimulation. A neuropriming, it involves mild electrical stimulus. And if you see, the electrical stimulus is just it just looks like a hairband where there are two electrodes being placed. It stimulates the prefrontal cortex. While stimulating this prefrontal cortex, we employ the use of neuroplasticity, which is the brain ability to reorganize. Can we pay more attention? Can we do the hand-eye coordination better? And one of the examples what caught my attention in the last Olympics, that when a trained rifle shooting event participant, or we say the trained shooter, uses the techniques like TDCS, in a trained person, the effect size is 4.6% better. Now we say 4.6% better is what? It's nothing, is I am just making firing pattern better. But if we look, the first place finish, the team which gets gold, and the team who finished 8th, the difference is just 3.6%. So we know now that 4.6% is priming your brain can get you a gold medal. And there are studies which shows that priming your brain can make you learn faster. It can be a musical instrument like piano or a cello. It can be improve your eye-hand coordinations in the task which require that. The second way to stimulate the brain is what we use is the QEEG guided neurofeedback. Now there are people who uses the neurofeedback in their day-to-day life to enhance their brain. Now what is that enhancement means? Neurofeedback is a form of a biofeedback which uses a real-time display of brain activity and teaches the individual to self-regulate the brain action. For example, this kid, when we put the electrodes on the brain and we are recording, and a person have to just do a task as simple as watching a sunrise, sunset, watch a movie. You can play a game, but when you are playing a game, it's not with your hands, it's with your brain. So you are controlling a game with your thought. And if you perfected that thought, you can use the same brain the areas in doing the real world tasks. Now, apart from these, there are others and which are available in most of the people. So if all of you have listened to the music on phone or on the YouTube, there is something called the binaural beats. So what these binaural beats does, it provides the different frequencies to the left and the right brain. Now, there are lots of YouTube videos, or there are specialized devices like David Delight Pro, what we use in the clinical setting, but it is available on YouTube. So anyone, you can just search binaural beats and there are videos. You have to put a high definition headphones. And then the different frequencies which are present separately to each ear elicit the sensation of a third tone oscillating between the frequencies. And this theory is the brainwave entrainment hypothesis. So you can guide your brain to be more relaxed and calm, and it also provides you a cognitive and affective state stimulation. But as of now, the future of brain enhancement is definitely going to be enhancing the brain with different methods. Or on the other, in the pop neuroscience or the newspaper, you say how you biohack your brain. That's where how you biohack your brain. But the future of the brain enhancement is behind the continues to improve. But it also to measure that what is the evidence from the research, expertise and experience, and expectation and the value of the patients or the person who try to seek. And that's a sweet spot we have to hit. We can't just say, oh, I saw something online, let me get it. It might not be good for you. For example, is it not compatible with you? You might have a seizure or epilepsy. You are not a fit person for it. So we have to just look at for how we can enhance. The enhancement not only in the brain or the sleeping or making you calm, but using those devices, there are again, I will go with the hardware part, that there is a brain which get activated, and when we see the working memory task on day 1, then you get a working memory training, again post you get a test, you get a post test 2, and you see those brain areas started firing better. And once the brain areas started firing better, over the time you can able to see the differences in your day-to-day tasks. So just to give a brief example that I have just covered one part of it which can affect our brain, bring those changes in our day-to-day life, but there are other multimodal approach to enhance the brain functioning, such as the use of TMS, which uses a magnetic pulses to stimulate specific brain regions. TDCS we have discussed, using electrical stimulus to modulate the brain activity. There is a vagus nerve stimulation which influence the mood and stress regulation. Dysautonomia, when we get up and suddenly we feel little blackout, that after sitting for 1 hour. Why is it so? It's not that we have not eaten or something. It is our brain failed to communicate hard to pump more blood across, and when we get up and we feel little blackout or giddiness. Stimulating the vagus nerve can bring that areas better. The gut microbiome can be stimulated with the vagus nerve stimulation. Neurofeedback, as we saw, it trains the brain to self-regulated activity. And so as the functional magnetic stimulation, which uses high intensity magnetic flux to affect the one nerve muscle groups. Now again, everything can be used under the guidance that what you actually want. People uses FMS after long runs. People use FMS after in the medical like conditions like frozen shoulder, spinal cord injury. So the same equipment which can use to give you an edge over a fellow cyclist in the Tour de France cycling event, the same equipment can also make you walk after the spinal cord injury. So as the TMS, we can probe the different brain areas for the speech production. As we just saw in the kids where the speech production is not developed, we can look for. So now to conclude, the developing brain is responsive to a wide range of factors that modulates the development, beginning with preconception experience of the parents, gestational experiences and postnatal experiences. So whatever we learn, it's not a blank state. It is right from the prenatal state to as we go along, we acquire that information. It's just now we begin to understand how different factors might interact with one another and how it's going to produce a cumulative effect. and the effect of early stress or psychoactive drugs are most studied negative effects and are likely to be most powerful. On the positive side, early experience such as tactile stimulation, what Ayushi will talk about in detail, would appear to be more influential. It's the ability to reverse some of the negative effects of stress and perhaps of the psychoactive drugs. So with that, I will stop my talk on the hardware and we listen to more of a software side from Ayushi.
Hello, hello. Mic test. Hello.
Good evening, all. I hope I'm audible. Sir and Dr. ESK have already given you well enough brief of the brain. I'm just going to talk about childhood behaviors and their implications. And to start off with, I'm really grateful to be here and I feel very privileged and I would like to thank Dr. ESK for giving me this opportunity. But let's understand childhood behaviors and their implications. So every child of a growing age will have some issues or the other. It's completely normal. But think of a scenario where a child is in a grocery store and is throwing a tantrum, rolling on the floor, crying, helplessly. And the caregiver feels helpless. The child does not know how to, regulate his or her emotions. It's definitely a problem. Or think of a child who is unable to sit in a class, not able to attend to classes, not able to focus on what's being taught, running around, trying to just, calm themselves down. Again, a problem. Being able to first notice these problems and also kind of being able to get them to a space where they can be helped effectively and address them with clinical help will take them a long way. So, like we've discussed about the several reasons why certain behavioral problems can happen, but like you see, it's a triple Venn diagram, and everything kind of just merges into one another. There are three broad categories in which we can distribute the causes due to which behavioral problems occur. First is biological causes, obviously, like we've discussed before. Inherited defects such as chromosomal abnormalities, genetic abnormalities, traumatic brain injuries during infancy, prenatal exposure to teratogens, toxoplasmosis, STDs in mother, or intake of alcohol by the mother or illicit drug intake by the mother, prenatal environments such as perinatal stress, delay in birth cry, breech birth which leads to hypoxia sometimes, irritability and low birth weight, which may also lead to some psychological, behavioral problems, leading to maybe the child having temperamental issues. They may have, adding on to the biological causes, they may have behavioral changes due to observational learning, what they see in their environment, the way their parents are behaving, or the way their peers are behaving, or behavioral conditioning. What is the child being reinforced for? What is the child being punished for? All of these can lead the child to behave in certain ways, primarily to protect themselves. And the stage of development that the child is in. So if, let's say the stage of development the child is in is exploratory stage, the first stage of development. And like we've seen, our lockdown babies, they were not given the opportunity to explore. Hence, they had a lot of behavioral problems. right? So if the stage of development in which the child is does not corroborate with the environment stimulus or environmental support that they're getting, there could be behavioral problems. And of course, social and environmental causes such as parenting styles, the attachment system that they form with their parents and caregivers, if there is sibling rivalry, the birth order the child is on, is the child a single child, is the child the last one or the first child, it really affects the way the child develops and develops a system about themselves, belief about themselves and how they project that in their environment. Obviously, peer influence, there's social aspects or social cultural aspects of development, the environment that in which they're growing, the school that they go to, all of it is to be taken care of when we're talking about causes, when we're talking about behavior problems. So there are multiple theories that are set in place already that kind of walk us through why children learn and develop certain behavioral patterns. So let's say, Sir B.F. Skinner said that operational learning is everything. So you condition a child based on what you reinforce them or based on how much you punish them, and they will learn exactly what you reinforce them and punish them for. So reinforcements can be anything that increases the probability of a behavior, right? So if you tell the child, you know what, if you finish the homework, I will give you a toffee. It's a reinforcement for the child. They will expect the toffee next time and would be more likely to do the homework. And there is something called negative reinforcement as well. So imagine the child is feeling a lot of discomfort, they're having a rash, and you put a rash cream. It's more likely that they'll come back to you asking you for the rash cream to prevent the discomfort or get rid of the discomfort, right? So you add something positive and remove something uncomfortable, increases the probability of behavior, and you do that in a consistent, scheduled manner, which will lead to a certain behavioral pattern to be formed. Same with punishments. So Albert Bandura says that social learning theory or learning by observation is how children learn. Like Sir very rightly said, Dr. E.S.K., that if you lie on a call, the child will immediately think that it's all right for me to lie as well. There are no consequences. What you portray to the child is what the child is going to imbibe and obviously project in their environment in the future, which may also cause behavioral issues. Jean Piaget said that there are multiple stages of cognitive development that a child goes through. They go through a sensory motor stage, then they move to a pre-sensory state, then they go to a concrete operational state, and then they go to a formal operational state. Now, every stage that they are in, there are different things that they learn, there are different things that they explore, and there are different abilities that they kind of grasp and display. If the environment forces them to be in a different stage than they are cognitively, it's going to cause an issue. They are going to have behavioral issues. How do children develop emotionally and socially in their social environment? So, like I've already said, attachment plays a very important role. Parenting styles play a very important role. Does the child feel secure around their parents? Does the child feel like the parent is available for them? Is the child able to communicate their needs to the parents? So there are broadly 4 types of attachment styles, and the best one is the secure attachment style. The others are disengaged, ambivalent and avoidant attachment styles. And in all of these 3, there is something in part where in their growing or developing stages, the parents kind of didn't meet the child's needs in some way or the other. Obviously, it's unintentional. Every parent has their own reasons for kind of not being available for the child. They don't intentionally try not to be there for the child, but it does have an effect on the developing brain. So attachment styles, styles and parenting styles play a huge role in how the child kind of portrays themselves in the environment. Psychosocial development, according to Erickson, is that every stage of your life you will have to go through some conflict, and if you deal with that conflict well, your development is pretty smooth, pretty easy. So, for example, the first stage is trust versus mistrust. If you have issues in the first stage of development, say the child is not able to build a secure, trusting, relationship with their primary caregivers, they're not able to grow out of that, which again causes a lot of issues in behavior, especially when we talk about children who have been separated from their parents. They have a huge problem trusting their environment, and they don't move past the first stage. Moral development also happens when there is engagement with the environment and the child learns to solve their own problems and make decisions based on what's appropriate, not based on if they will be punished or if it will be approved by the parents or not. So they again move through 6 stages, and they go from stage number 1, which is just being obedient and making decisions based on what their parents would expect them to having certain abstract ways of thinking, having universal laws in their mind and making decisions based on what may be universally more beneficial. So there are 2 broad categorizations of behavioral problems. Just to simplify it, either there is a lack in behavior, the child is not performing enough or doing enough, or there is too much. A lack could be termed as broadly as internalizing behavioral problems. So the child may not be comfortable in their environment. The child may withdraw, they may be extremely depressed, they may be anxious, they may cry a lot, they may feel worthless, and they would demand excessive amount of attention. They may show withdrawn behavior, they may be very secretive, very shy, and they would complain that they have physiological symptoms. So the child wants to avoid school all the time, they have complaints of stomach pain, leg pain, back pain. They feel extremely uncomfortable in their own bodies and in the environment that they are in. They find reasons to decrease peer engagement. So all of this can be broadly a part of internalizing behavioral problems. Also, an extreme of internalizing behavioral problems is the child gets so socially and emotionally withdrawn that they may have different ways of thinking. They may have bizarre ways of thinking that shifts them from reality, that makes them feel like they're not a part of the environment, but they are part of another fantastical world, and they feel comfortable in that. And all of this is manifested as a part of their coping mechanism. A child just wants to secure themselves, and a part of their coping mechanism is to kind of pull back from the dangerous environment that they are in and to find safety in their own ruminations and thought processes. Another end of the spectrum is externalizing behavioral problems, where the distress of the child may actually come out as outwardly abusive, aggressive, violent behavior. The child may be extremely hyperactive, they may not be able to sit in a place, they may break things, they may kind of be they may be disruptive, they won't let people be on their own, intentionally would try to, dismiss adults' requests, be very rude, argumentative, all just to meet what their primary needs are. The bottom line is that all of these problems are stemming from a space of wanting their needs to be met. Every child displays certain behavioral problems because they are not able to either cope with their environment or they're extremely confused about what they need to do in the current situation that they are in. Okay, so at Buddhi, primarily, what are the assessments that we do, comprehensive assessments that we do when a child comes, when a parent comes in with certain behavioral problems. So the first agenda is to try to understand which stage of development the child is in. So we would like to first understand how is the child able to perform in a social context and how is the child able to adapt in relation to their chronological age. So we kind of find a social age for the child. So once we do that, we have maybe it's average, maybe it's below average, maybe it's above average. Based on that, we would see, we will actually get to an understanding of how much the child needs to be integrated in the society and what are the adaptive functioning support that we need to provide or we need to help the parent kind of, engage in the child. Then we kind of understand that the parents have come to us because there are some behavioral issues. So we do a childhood behavioral checklist to understand if there are primarily internalizing or externalizing behavioral problems. When we get a clarity of if there is an internalizing or externalizing behavioral problem, we use the Vanderbilt scale to get a deeper understanding of what the diagnosis means. So the Vanderbilt scale is a comprehensive scale to kind of give you, it's a diagnostic scale for ADHD, but it has other scales, it has complementary scales as well. It has a scale for conduct disorder, oppositional defiant disorder, it has questions for anxiety, depression, and overall performance of the child. So there is a comprehensive rating and you get an overview of how the child may be performing in the school context and what, if there are any elevations, we go for further assessments and further tests. Apart of which is also assessing the IQ of the child. We use the WISC test at the moment. Okay, so what are the implications of childhood behavioral problems not being addressed in adulthood? So, children growing in a very invalidating, dismissive household are pretty vulnerable to self-harm. They have poor self-esteem, they have poor self-efficacy. Their unaddressed anxiety can lead to chronic dysfunctionality in day-to-day functioning. They may not be able to hold up a job, they may not be able to perform at their optimal level. They may grow into adults with various somatic complaints and can have can affect their well-being and can affect their interpersonal relationships as well. Depression of emotional needs from a young age may make them very vulnerable to deviation from reality, like discussed before. And they may also state his spite to self-harm behavioral practices such as consuming alcohol, drug abuse, and other self-injurious behaviors to cope with their emotional problems. In terms of externalizing behavioral problems, when a child with externalizing behavioral problems, existing externalizing behavioral problems, grows into an adult, there may be a development if we understood that there is a conduct problem and if we let it go, if we let it go unnoticed, the child may develop ASPD traits in adulthood and they can actually be very harmful to themselves and to their environment. They may develop attentional problems and may lead to poor work adherence performance in adulthood. Unaddressed hyperactivity can actually lead to impulsive decision making in adulthood, making a person extremely vulnerable to real-life problems. And habituation of aggressive coping methods can cause issues in, again, interpersonal and social functioning. So how do we prevent, as say, if we have children or we have grandkids, how do we prevent problems and build resilient children? So first of all, let's notice that there is a problem. Let's identify that there is something. Let's identify that certain behaviors can cause a problem. Mindful parenting is extremely essential. The need for parents to work through their own traumas and their own distressing childhood conditions, if any, is pertinent to raising a healthy and a resilient child. Seeking prenatal counseling and equipping self with parental skills is extremely important to understand the nuances of parenting and keep a check and working through postpartum stress, any postpartum depression, if both the parents may have, and kind of seeking help in the right time from a professional. Also understanding the biopsychosocial vulnerabilities the child may have. Understanding your child, the predisposition to certain medical and psychiatric conditions that they may have. What are their current health conditions? Awareness of child's basic needs being met or not. Some children may need more warmth, some children may need more space. Understanding what the child's current needs are is really important to be able to give them the nurturance that they require. Also understanding the basic temperament of the child. What is the instinctual way of this child to act in a certain environment or in a certain situation? And environmental demands on the child. How many people are there in the family? How many people are giving the child how many people are giving this child instructions? All of this really matters. Third way is to encourage curiosity, letting the child be, letting the child explore their environment freely, allowing social exploration, letting them meet a lot of people, letting them be in a mixed social environment, allowing the child to solve his or her own problems by providing unconditional support. I always say, please be don't be the driver, be on the back seat, let the child kind of solve their own problems, just guide them in a way where, they understand if, there are going to be consequences to certain behaviors, and equip the child with useful coping mechanisms for the future.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll buy that.
Okay, class online. Great.
Right, okay. Can you allow me 2 minutes? Just allow me 2 minutes. Okay, I'll just finish it up by filling you in about how to deal with behavioral problems. Step 1, notice there is a behavioral problem. Step 2, understand that every individual may have different needs and you may have to provide them in a different way. Step 3, seek help from professionals to understand the root cause of the problem. Reinforce the child with positive or negative reinforcements to increase desired behavior, and do introduce micro punishments whenever required to decrease undesirable behavior. Change the narrative. Let's limit advising and have an open dialogue about the behavior so that it's self-driven, the behavioral change. Engage them in peer support groups and model desired behavior. Have realistic expectations in terms of the process progress they have. Thank you so much, and I'm sorry to take you.
I think we have an audience online as well. So can I ask people in the room, if you have a question, put your hand up so that the microphone comes. We're going to start with the online questions. Okay, I have all the questions here.
Can I add
So I will start with the question. What are some early warning signs that a child may be struggling with mental health issues in the question? And I think Aishi's already just outlined all the externalizing and internalizing behaviors that one ought to be concerned about. This is a question that I'd like to ask Vivek. How does exposure to technology and social media impact the development of resilience in children?
So when we talk about there are the positive and the negative sides of both using the technology at the early stage. So previously when we saw that brain image that there are different brain networks, and now if a kid only uses a phone, he is not looking up, he is not making eye contact with the peers, but they are very pro in using the phones. You know, I see as early as 3 years and they are using their games or they are using the YouTube. And what the recent research have found out that just by doing that, there is a negative impact on your attention, there is a negative impact on your behavior output. But on the positive side, when there is an age where the heart, like when I said the brain is mature enough to use it judicially, it also lead to enhanced learning, because again, the future is going toward the use of AI and augmented reality. So it's just a justification of the use which makes the brain better.
Question for you, Ayushi. What advice do you have for parents on how to help their children cope with stress and adversity?
First, if you've noticed that the child is stressed out, have an open dialogue about the situation that they may be in. Is there something happening in school? Is there something harming their safety? Are they finding it difficult to cope with their academics? Have an open dialogue with them. Second is to have a conversation with their school teachers, have a conversation with their friends and see if the child is at an adolescent level where he's able to kind of express his needs with his friends. Maybe having a dialogue with his or her friends also works. And finally, if you're not able to talk to the child and help the child, deal with stress and anxiety in your own ways, please consult a psychologist and seek professional help.
Thank you. One question for Rudra. What are the simple mindfulness exercises that participants can use to quickly center themselves and reduce stress?
Bodily movements which involve breath and movement of your limbs. So you will be doing those movements in complete synchronicity will ensure that you are going to stay mindful. The movements are happening faster than normal. It clearly means that you aren't in synchronicity with your breath.
Thank you. I have a question from the floor, whether OCD is a part of neurodiversity and whether we have to take lifelong drugs for it. So OCD is obsessive compulsive disorder. It can present as a kind of neurodiversity because the person is different with OCD. And yes, sometimes people do need to take medication for a long time is the answer. Not necessarily lifelong, but for a long time. Modern science is giving us a lot of answers. You had Vivek present many new ways of stimulating the brain, and some of those can be very effective in OCD. I think we've kind of gone past the time, so I'm going to just very quickly summarize what we've talked about, this being the first of a series of talks on mental wellness. We've talked about childhood. I think we've all illustrated to you how the brain can be influenced very, very early, that the hardware is important. The hardware actually works in many ways, and what helps the hardware is good learning, good environments, and good experiences. This we've learned. We've learned from Ayushi the importance of how childhood behavior is influenced through development, and therefore it's extremely important that the early years are spent well with appropriate parenting, appropriate experiences, appropriate exposures. We've learned from Rudra the importance of mindfulness. And I think one of the things that I'd like everyone to think about is two very basic concepts. One,
that we can all be different. It's okay to be different. It's important to find your potential despite being different. I think that's one. And help people who are different find their potential. The other is, the question is not, as Howard Gardner, the Harvard psychologist says, the question is not whether you're intelligent. The question is how you're intelligent. And most of what we struggle with is because we are trying to do something for which we don't have the right kind of intelligence. And if we just shift our efforts towards something for which we actually have the right kind of intelligence, and intelligences can be musical, natural, which is like farming or geography, intelligences can be to do with logic, mathematics, language. Each person has certain very specific attributes. Finding those attributes is what really helps people find their potential, and shaping those attributes is what helps people change their potential. And please be aware, it's never too late. Many of us in this room are middle-aged, but we live in an era where most people have 3 careers. So if your first and second hasn't really worked out the way you want it to, there is always scope for a third, and or a fourth or a fifth. And it's therefore finding your potential, and we hope that this series will help you discover your potential as you go along. We once again thank you to Group Captain Vijay Kumar for this unique opportunity. Thank you to MMA, and thank you for all of you both here and online for being such a patient audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Big round of applause. Thank you, large number of viewers, about 680 viewers have watched thing. I had a bunch of questions. Due to possibly have time, sorry, we couldn't attend all your questions. Next time we do a better time planning so that I got another bunch of questions out. Come and we an audience questions. Thanks so much, and Aisha. And MMA do a lot of CSR. So a lot of children do a lot of CSR work. We want to present you what our children have done, the CSR, so that you will take a big memory of Aisha said about what the children do. Children do a fantastic work for us. All of that created by children. We want to take. Please step forward. Mr. Stage as a memento on behalf of MMA. All of you, can you also step forward? All of you, please.
Anyone who has to ask a question, you can also email us. It's care@buddhiclinic.com. We'll try and make sure every question gets answered. CARE, care@buddhiclinic.com. And we'll try and answer every question. Thank you.
Come, Mr. Come here. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Next thing will be same topic will be on 25th of July. It's on Am I Intelligent? So look forward to that thing as much as you are looking for. I am going to look forward. Thank you. Till we meet again. Bye bye and good night.
How are you?